A white HOA board member parks in a black homeowner's private driveway with arrogance and entitlement. When he respectfully confronts her, she mocks his place in the neighborhood. But she doesn't realize who he really is or what's about. To begin, move your car or I'll have IT towed even if you own this dump. The voice rang out from a woman in oversized sunglasses and a tennis visor, her French manicured finger jabbing toward a sleek black sedan parked neatly in the driveway. Her heels clacked arrogantly on the HOA community pavement as she stormed toward the porch. Totally uninvited. Malik Jordan, mid-30s, calm in posture and precise in movement, didn't flinch. He paused the drill in his hand, stood from the porch step he'd been fixing, and wiped sweat from his temple. A gentle breeze nudged the American flag hanging from his clean white column. His charcoal t-shirt clung to his broad shoulders. His skin, the shade of polished walnut, gleamed in the late morning sun. That's my car, he said plainly, tone measured, and this is my house. The woman scoffed, hands on hips. No, I know who owns this place. The Wilsons. This isn't your address and that driveway belongs to the HOA. We've had complaints. Her name tag glinted. Karen Tompkins, HOA Vice President. Below it, the embroidery read, Pine Hill Community. Excellence always. Malik's smile was faint, controlled. The Wilsons moved out last year. I closed this place in December. Karen's eyebrows arched. You? You bought this house? She said it like it was a math error. Malik gave a silent nod, returning to his drill, but Karen stepped closer. Sir, look, I don't know what scam you pulled, but we don't just let anyone move into Pine Hill, especially not without board review. He stopped again, calmly placed the drill down. I wasn't aware moving into a purchased home required your approval. Karen's jaw flexed. We'll see about that. She turned and marched back toward her car, still parked in his driveway. But as she opened the driver's side door, she muttered just loud enough, Don't think owning property means you belong here. Malik stood still as her car reversed over his curb, dust spitting. His hands were clenched now, but not from rage. From restraint, a neighbor across the street, an older man watering his hedges, watched silently and turned away. The silence that followed was heavier than her words. That evening, Malik sat on his porch, sipping water, legs stretched. A child's bike leaned against his garage. The sun dipped behind the rooftops. He scrolled through emails confirming tax records, deed registrations, and archived board communications from the HOA. He had them all. The next morning, the silver SUV was back, parked diagonally across his driveway, blocking his exit. Again, Karen wasn't in sight. Malik didn't curse, didn't rant. He walked back inside, grabbed his phone, and tapped 3 digits. Pine Hill Towing? Yes, there's a vehicle illegally blocking a private driveway. 114 Cedar Elm. Title's in my name. You'll want to bring the heavy cables. As he waited, he made coffee. 20 minutes later, the tow truck arrived. Hooked up, lifted. Karen came running screaming across the street in her robe and slippers, demanding they stop. But this time, Malik didn't even step off his porch. He just raised his mug, silently. Karen's voice cracked with fury. I'll have your membership revoked. I'll speak to the president. Malik's voice, when it finally came, was smooth as silk. You're speaking to him. She froze. He stood, walked down the steps, handed her a folded HOA newsletter. His name now listed as HOA president, effective July 1st. Karen's face drained color. You're replacing Alan? She choked. Alan nominated me before he moved. Last meeting, you weren't there. Said the board needed someone who knew the law. Karen stammered. But no one told me. I sent 3 emails and a certified letter. She stepped back speechless. Malik's final line was soft, measured, sharp. This driveway isn't just mine. Neither is this street. But now, this neighborhood, I do belong here. And you'll never forget it again. He walked back inside, slowly, leaving her standing in the sunlight, lips parted, hands shaking. Fade out. Silence. But the war? Just started. Karen paced across her living room, phone glued to her ear. No, Sandra, he can't just be president. I didn't vote on anything. No one told me. On the other end, the old HOA secretary sighed. You were absent for 3 consecutive meetings. The board followed protocol. Alan submitted your removal, and Malik was the only one with full attendance and legal background. It was unanimous. Karen's voice dropped. Legal background? The next morning, she found out exactly what that meant. Malik stepped out of his house in a tailored blazer, slacks, and polished shoes. No drill, no t-shirt. He didn't walk, he glided, calm and composed. His steps were deliberate, carrying the quiet dignity of someone who'd been underestimated one too many times. A UPS driver waved at him. Morning, Mr. Jordan, Malik nodded back. Thanks, Reggie. Thank you. Across the street, Karen squinted. From her blinds. The man didn't match the image she'd crafted of him. The assumption she'd repeated at wine nights and HOA side chats that he was lucky to get in, that he probably couldn't afford the neighborhood, much longer suddenly cracked. She walked to her laptop and typed, Malik Jordan. Pine Hill. What popped up made her blood pressure spike. Former Assistant District Attorney, State of Georgia. J.D., Howard University School of Law, author of Quiet Law, Navigating Justice Without Raising Your Voice. HOA Certified Legal Advisor. Guest lecturer, Emory University School of Public Policy. She dropped her coffee mug. It shattered across the marble. Back at the Pine Hill Community Center, Malik sat at the head of a rectangular glass table flanked by board members. No yelling, no accusations. Just spreadsheets. Code violations. Improvement plans. I think we need a re-review of parking enforcement, he said, flipping through paper neatly. And perhaps a refresher on property rights for the board. Laughter sprinkled around the table, soft, respectful. Karen wasn't in that room. But 2 board members she used to control now leaned into Malik's vision. One of them, Linda, a retired Navy veteran, raised her hand. Malik, you're saying we stop doing surprise finds and start actual documentation? That's the law, Malik said, looking directly at her. HOA is about community, not control. Outside the room, Karen stood in the hallway, frozen, listening. Her face pale, her mind racing. This wasn't just a man with a house. This was a man with receipts. That afternoon, she tried playing nice. She knocked on his door. Malik opened it, still wearing the same steady look. Calm, cool, unreadable. Karen forced a smile. Hey there. Just thought we might have gotten off on the wrong foot. Maybe we could chat sometime. Over lunch? Malik studied her, then glanced down at the ceramic plate in her hand's homemade cookies. Chocolate chip? He asked, voice light but firm. Yep, my grandmother's recipe. He gave her a half smile, took the plate politely. Then handed her a small envelope in return. She blinked. What's this? Copy of the HOA complaint you filed last year. You signed it anonymously, but digital footprints are thorough. I filed it away just in case. Her throat went dry. I didn't mean anything by that. He gave a slow nod. Exactly. Then he shut the door, gently. No slam, no curse. Just finality. Back inside, Malik placed the cookies in the trash. Not out of bitterness. Just boundaries. In his office, degrees lined the wall. books with tabs and court notes stacked neatly. On one shelf sat a framed photo, his late grandfather standing in front of a whites-only sign defiant, eyes forward. Malik whispered, "You weren't supposed to be here either, Pops, but you stood tall." The quiet power ran in his blood, and now it was his turn to stand tall, in a neighborhood that didn't see him coming. The first whisper started by the mailbox cluster. "He's the new HOA president, right?" A middle-aged woman in joggers paused mid-swipe on her phone. "Karen's not? Since when?" Her friend, adjusting her dog's leash, lowered her sunglasses. "Since he had her car towed out of his driveway. That man owns the house. Clean title and everything." By noon, the story had evolved. "Did you hear? She called the cops on him first." "I heard he's a judge." No, he was a... She messed with the wrong one. At the community gym, two teenagers paused their reps to talk. "You see that guy walking every morning? That's Malik. Dude's low-key the real deal. Doesn't say much. But he got receipts, bro." At the elementary school pickup line, a mom whispered to another, "He's always been polite. Held the door for me last week. And Karen? She never waves at the black families on the block." By dinner time, even the Pine Hill Facebook group buzzed-coded, "Of course. Some recent changes in leadership may bring improvements. Let's remain respectful in our assumptions." Translation: Karen's out, Malik's in. Adjust accordingly. Malik didn't chase any of it. He kept walking his daughter to the bus stop. Kept waving to neighbors even when some refused to wave back. Kept filing HOA paperwork on time. And every time he heard a door close behind him or a whisper fade when he passed, he just smiled. It didn't matter if the support was loud or silent. He saw everything. But it was one quiet moment that landed like thunder. He was returning from a morning jog when he noticed something on his porch, a single folded note. No envelope. He picked it up, unfolded it. The handwriting was shaky but careful. "Mr. Jordan, I just wanted to say thank you. My husband and I have lived here for 18 years. We've always stayed quiet. But you made us feel seen for the first time. I left the HOA 5 years ago because I couldn't stand the way Karen treated people. You changed that in a week. Respectfully, Gloria, lot number 12. Attached was a small pin, an old HOA lapel pin. But instead of gold, it was painted over with black ink. A tiny wordless gesture. Malik sat on his porch step, staring at it. Not because it meant victory, because it meant someone had noticed. Not his title, not his suit. Him. Later that day, Karen sat at her kitchen table, doom-scrolling through neighborhood messages and next-door posts. Her name wasn't mentioned, but her presence was. Gone. Someone suggested a new diversity program. Another posted about Malik's plan to host a Know Your Rights community session at the clubhouse. A third recommended adding Juneteenth to the HOA holiday calendar. She blinked. Was her entire grip unraveling? She slammed her laptop shut. Down the street, Linda, the Navy vet and HOA treasurer, walked into Malik's driveway. "You've stirred the pot," she said with a smirk. "Didn't mean to," he replied, taking a sip of iced tea. "Doesn't matter. People are watching now." He tilted his head. "That good or bad?" Linda shrugged. "Depends. Are you planning to lead? Or just defend?" Malik stood, quiet, calm, maybe both. The envelope was tucked into his mailbox. No stamp. Hand-delivered. Official. Pine Hill HOA letterhead. Notice of violation, lot number 114. Reason: unapproved architectural change to front porch, step reconstruction. Malik raised an eyebrow. The step he'd repaired in Chapter 1, same wood, same dimensions. No structural change. Just maintenance. Done legally. But here it was. A fine. A warning. A subtle message. Karen's signature was at the bottom. She hadn't disappeared. She'd simply changed weapons. Malik placed the letter on his kitchen counter. Exhaled through his nose. Then he smiled. By 2 p.m., he was in the HOA office papers. Photos, time-stamped videos, even local ordinance code books in hand. Not angry. Not loud. Prepared. Karen wasn't there when he entered. But the office assistant, a young Latina woman named Isa, looked up nervously. I think she left early today, Isa said. That's fine, Malik replied, warm but firm. You can pass this along. He handed her a file folder labeled Response to Invalid HOA Citation, Lot 114 inside. Photos of the step taken before and after, a copy of the original architectural permit from when the house was built. Local code explicitly defining repairs versus structural changes. A notarized statement from the contractor who'd built the original steps. Years ago, Malik had tracked him down. Isa blinked. You really did your homework. He smiled softly. I always do. She hesitated, then whispered, She's scared of you. Malik looked at her, calm. She should be scared of what I represent. Later that evening, Karen called an emergency. Board meeting. Only 2 other members showed up. One left early. Linda stayed. Arms folded. Watching. Karen paced in front of the HOA's glass whiteboard. He's trying to take over everything. Now he's proposing open audits of our budget, removal of random fines, even changing architectural review to include renter input. It's chaos. Linda raised an eyebrow. It's democracy, Karen snapped. It's revenge. No. Linda replied, slow and deliberate. It's a correction. Karen slammed her marker on the table. He's violating our process. Linda leaned forward. You signed off on a fake violation, Karen, against a man fixing a porch he owns. That's not the process. That's targeting. Silence. Karen looked around the empty room. No one came to her defense. The next week, every HOA resident received a letter from Malik. Subject. Your rights as a homeowner, no drama. No finger pointing. Just facts. How fines should be issued. What constitutes real violations, where your money goes, and how to request a review without fear. Some residents tossed it. Some read it twice, but one family taped it to their fridge. Malik's goal wasn't to fight back. With fire. It was to replace the system brick by brick with transparency. And the first brick was truth. Karen stood outside his house a few days later, holding another letter. Malik stepped outside, meeting her near the mailbox. This one's legal, she said curtly. But there are protocols. You skipped a few things. He studied her face, saw the desperation behind the practiced sneer. Your grip is slipping, he said gently. Karen swallowed. This isn't over. Malik looked out across the cul-de-sac. Exactly. Folding. Chairs lined the Pine Hill Community Center. Plastic cups of weak lemonade. A tray of untouched cookies. The HOA monthly meeting had always been a boring affair. Rubber stamps, forced smiles, hidden power plays. But this time, nearly half the neighborhood showed up. They weren't here for snacks. They were here for Malik. Stood at the front, next to a whiteboard already filled with charts. Behind him, a simple slide. Pine Hill Transparency Initiative Proposal. Karen sat near the back, arms folded. Her lips are tight. Her allies beside her were fewer now. 3 people. Maybe 4. Linda sat in the front row, nodding slightly. Malik took no podium, no mic, just his voice. I'll keep this short, he began. He glanced at the room. Young couples, elderly residents, single parents, people who'd stayed quiet for years. I moved here because it felt safe, he said. Because it felt beautiful. But a community should be more than beauty. It should feel fair. A few heads nodded. One person murmured, Amen. Malik continued, Over the last month, I've reviewed our HOA structure. I found over A dozen unapproved fines issued without notice. I found architectural rejections with no code basis. And I found a pattern not against properties, against people. Karen stood abruptly. Are you accusing me of racism? Malik didn't flinch. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm presenting facts. And anyone can decide what those facts mean. Silenced out, then he turned the slide. 17 random. Violations issued to households of color. 0 violations successfully. Appealed in the last 5 years. 100% of architectural denials occurred under the same. 3 board members, 3 written requests to investigate that were ignored. ***. He let it sit. The silence wasn't awkward. It was honest. Karen scoffed. Those numbers are taken out of context. Linda cut her off. Let him finish. Malik calmly turned to the next slide. This proposal is simple. We establish a homeowner review council, 5 randomly selected residents every quarter, rotating, diverse, and anonymous. All fines, appeals, and changes. Go through them. No more unchecked authority. Someone in the crowd raised a hand. How's it funded? Malik answered without looking down. Redirect 12% of HOA as surplus funds, about $4,300 per year. No dues increase. And I'll volunteer to handle the setup paperwork. Another voice. Why hasn't this been done before? He didn't need to answer. Karen's chair creaked. As she crossed her arms tighter, then from the back, a quiet voice spoke. It was Gloria. Lot number 12. I left the board because I felt invisible. This would have kept me at the table. People turned. Then a father with a toddler spoke. My kid. Plays 2 houses down from Malik's. Never seen him raise his voice once. But I've seen him show up. Another woman. Karen, find me for a holiday wreath. Laughter bubbled. Nervous, then genuine. Malik let it wash over them. Not smug, not superior. Just steady. Then he stepped back. That's all I came to say. He nodded once. Whether it passes or not, I'm not leaving. Because home means staying, even when you weren't meant to feel welcome. The room was quiet. Then a single clap. Linda. Then another. And another, until even some of Karen's old supporters were clapping, softly, awkwardly, but clapping. For the first time, Malik didn't just occupy the room. He held it, and they saw him, not as a threat. As a leader. The HOA boardroom wasn't grand. Fluorescent lights, plain tile floor, a long conference table with uneven chairs. But today, it felt like a courtroom. Karen sat across from Malik, flanked by 2 of her last loyal allies. Her heels tapped a rhythm of impatience under the table. Malik, hands folded neatly in front of him, waited. The room wasn't full, just the board. But the tension? Heavy. You went behind my back, Karen hissed. No, Malik said quietly. I used the process. You just stopped paying attention. She slapped a folder onto the table. This? A petition to reassign oversight of the architectural committee? You're dismantling everything we built. Malik opened the folder. Inside was a list of homeowner signatures. 34, more than the required 25% for procedural review. It's not dismantling, he said. It's restoring trust. Karen leaned in, eyes narrowed. I've lived here for 22 years. I built this community. You think walking in with a law degree gives you the right to change everything? No, he replied, tone still even. What gives me the right is the same thing that gave you the right. A key, a mortgage, and a name on the deed. Linda, seated beside Malik, shifted forward. Karen, let's not pretend this is about policy. Oh, really? Karen snapped. Then what is it? Malik finally looked up, eyes steady and clear. It's about control. And what happens when the people you used to control stop asking permission? Silence. Karen laughed bitterly. You know what your problem is? You walk in here like you're better than everyone. Like your calm voice and fancy files make you invincible. Malik's jaw flexed, just once. Then he leaned forward slightly. No malice, no rage. Karen, I don't think I'm better than anyone here. But I do know the law better than you. I know how to document, how to file, how to protect myself, and how to protect people you've been walking over for years. He placed a single document on the table, a summary of all HOA decisions Karen had pushed through in the past 3 years. Marked in red were those with no second signature or community notice. Legal breaches. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. You've been holding power, he said, but not legally. Karen tried to speak, but Linda cut in. This isn't about embarrassment. It's about accountability. And this board has never had any until now. Karen stood. Then fire me. Malik met her eyes. We don't need to. The bylaws already say 3 missed meetings is automatic removal. That happened 2 weeks ago. Her face fell. You're lying. Linda pulled a printout from her file and slid it across the table. Article 4, Section B.3 missed meetings equals forfeiture of position. Karen read it once, twice. Her mouth opened, then closed. Malik stood slowly. We're not here to humiliate you. We're here to clean up what should have never been allowed to rot. She didn't respond. He turned to the rest of the room. Motion to ratify removal of Karen Tompkins as vice president of the HOA due to procedural disqualification. Linda raised her hand. Seconded. 2 more followed. Karen's voice barely rose above a whisper. You'll regret this. Malik tilted his head. If standing up for myself and my neighbors cost me comfort, then I don't regret it, and I never will. He turned. Walked out. Karen didn't follow. She just sat, alone, in a chair that no longer held power. The Pine Hill Fall Festival had always been a charming but forgettable event. Hay bales, cider stands, kids in face paint, and middle-aged dads pretending to care about sack races. But this year, people showed up early. Foldable chairs surrounded the small stage set up near the lake. Colorful banners waved. A microphone crackled. Families brought blankets and extra water bottles. Someone even rented a bouncy castle. But what drew everyone in wasn't the music or popcorn. It was who was speaking. Malik Jordan, the newsletter, had listed it plainly. Community Transparency Update presented by HOA President Malik Jordan. No fluff, no slogans, but everyone came anyway. He stepped onto the stage in a navy sweater and jeans. No clipboard. No PowerPoint. Just a calm man with presence. He looked out at the crowd, more than 100 people. A few months ago, most of them wouldn't have recognized him on the street. Now, every eye was locked on him. Thank you all for coming, Malik began. I won't take much of your time. This isn't about me, it's about us. About what a neighborhood should feel like, and what it shouldn't. He glanced at a small group near the front. Karen stood there, silent, no name tag, no clipboard. Her posture stiff, expression unreadable. Malik continued. In my first week as HOA president, I filed more transparency requests than had been processed in the last 5 years combined. That wasn't a boast. That was a problem. Scattered murmurs of agreement rippled. I've had neighbors stop me while jogging, whisper thank yous near their mailbox, ask if it's safe now to put up a wreath or paint their shutters, or leave their son's bike in the yard without a letter on their door. He paused. Safe, in a neighborhood they pay to live in. A hush fell. Policy matters, but people matter more. Then, something unexpected happened. A woman stood up. Middle-aged, Hispanic, nervous. She didn't go to the mic. She just spoke loud enough for the crowd to hear. My son, he was fined for drawing chalk drawings on our driveway. Karen said it violated street appearance. He was 7. We paid the $50 and stopped letting him draw. She swallowed. He's 13 now. I never told him why. Silence. Then applause, not loud. Not while just respectful. Malik stepped off the stage, gently gesturing her forward. They stood side by side. You don't need permission to belong here, he said, voice low but clear. You already do. Someone else shouted, We see you, Malik. Another. About time someone stood up. Another. You're making Pine Hill home again. Children clapped without knowing why. Parents clapped because they finally did. Karen didn't clap, but her husband lowered his head. By nightfall, the air smelled like cinnamon and burned marshmallows. Kids laughed around bonfires. Neighbors lingered longer than usual. Conversations that used to end at hi now lasted 10 minutes. Malik sat near a tree with his daughter asleep against his shoulder. Linda passed by and handed him a cup of cider. You good? He nodded. Better than I've been in a long time, she smiled. You earned it. He looked out at the crowd, his community. Not conquered. Connected. A month after the fall festival, the Pine Hill HOA forms changed. The fine print at the bottom of every violation. Notice now read. You have the right to appeal without penalty. Your voice matters. It was subtle, quiet, but intentional. A new committee called the Equity Circle began holding monthly sessions, welcoming long-ignored voices back into the conversation. Gloria from lot number 12 led the first meeting. She smiled like she hadn't in years. Malik didn't speak at that one. He just sat in the back and listened. Outside his house, something unexpected appeared. A small wooden sign, hand-painted. Welcome, Malik. We're glad you stayed. No name, no note. Just placed there with care. He left it untouched. Across the neighborhood, Malik noticed little things. The family 3 doors down put up a Kwanzaa wreath for the first time in years. No complaints. No passive-aggressive emails. An Asian American couple that had quietly skipped HOA events attended the latest potluck and brought homemade dumplings that disappeared in minutes. 2 teenage boys set up a Help Your Elderly Neighbor service and posted flyers on every mailbox. No one tore them down. Change wasn't a speech, or a vote, or a takedown. Change was a rhythm, and Pine Hill had started dancing to a new one. One morning, Malik found a sticky note on the HOA clubhouse door. You make it easier to breathe here. He held it for a long time, then pressed it into his pocket without a word. At the next board meeting, Linda presented a motion to rename the clubhouse room. Karen's name was on it formally, the Karen Tompkins Conference Hall. There was a long pause before anyone spoke. Linda cleared her throat. I moved to rename it to honor someone who brought reform, not silence. Eyes turned toward Malik. He raised his hand gently. Not mine. Heads tilted. I have enough recognition, he said. Let's name it. After someone we nearly forgot. A suggestion came from the back. Call it the Gloria Room. Another added, perfect. She never stopped caring, even when no one listened. The vote was unanimous. Karen left before it was counted. Later that night, Malik sat on his porch, flipping through handwritten thank you notes from kids who attended his new Know Your Rights youth workshop. One said, I didn't know I was allowed to say no. Thank you for teaching me that. Another, when I grow up, I want to be like you, but taller. He laughed quietly, then looked at the porch step, the same one he'd rebuilt months ago. The one that started it all. It wasn't just a step anymore. It was a foundation. Arrived unofficial. Letterhead postmarked from a local law firm, folded 3 times, and slid under his door like a threat. Subject: formal petition to review. Eligibility of HOA President Malik Jordan basis. Conflict of interest and unauthorized leadership election. No name. No signature on the first page. Just a shadow behind words. Malik exhaled as he read. Not surprised, just tired. At the emergency board session, the tension was sharp again. Not like before with whispers or subtle glances. This was direct. This is outrageous, Linda snapped, holding up the letter. We voted. The bylaws were followed. One of Curran's old allies, Greg, a real estate investor, shrugged. That's the problem. The bylaws are murky. Malik nominated himself. The transition happened too fast. Some homeowners are uncomfortable. Malik leaned forward, voice soft but steady. Some homeowners? Or just the ones who never expected? Need to last this long? Greg straightened. We're just asking for clarification. You're asking for erasure, Linda shot back. And you're hiding behind legal fog to do it. Malik didn't raise his voice. He opened a folder, slid it to the center of the table. Inside, signed nomination forms from 3 board members, time-stamped meeting minutes, verified homeowner vote logs, a full legal opinion from a neutral HOA attorney confirming his eligibility. He looked at Greg. I knew this might happen. That's why I kept records. That's why I made sure everything was transparent even when it didn't need to be. Greg opened his mouth. Then I closed it. Malik leaned back. I don't need this title. But I'm not giving it up because a few people are uncomfortable with what it represents. He stood, looked each board member in the eye. You're not just voting on me. You're voting on whether the rules apply equally or only when they protect power. Silence. Then, one by one, hands rose. Linda, David, Isa. Even 2 members who'd once backed Curran. Greg hesitated, then nodded. The vote stood. Malik remained president, but it wasn't a victory lap. He walked out of the room not with triumph, but with relief, because he hadn't fought to win. He'd fought to hold the line. That night, Malik stood in front of his house under the porch light. Across the street, he saw a familiar figure, Curran, standing on her driveway. She held a leash, her small dog, padding around her feet. She didn't say anything, just looked at him. And for the first time, no hatred, no smirk, just a long, quiet stare, maybe regret, maybe just recognition. He gave her a slow nod. She didn't nod back, but she didn't look away either. Back inside, his daughter sat at the kitchen table. Daddy, she asked, did they try to take your job? He knelt beside her. They did. Did they win? He smiled. No, but that's not the point. She tilted her head. Then what is? He touched her heart gently. That you don't have to fight like them, to win like you. The moving truck rumbled down Cedar Elm Drive on a breezy Saturday morning. A young black couple stepped out, beaming as they looked up at the cream-colored 2-story with brick shutters. The woman cradled a baby. The man adjusted a toolbox, already. Sweating in his T-shirt. Malik watched from his porch, coffee in hand, a knowing smile on his face. He stood, walked across the street, extended a hand. Welcome to Pine Hill, he said. The man smiled, surprised. Thanks, first time owning, we're excited. I live just over there, Malik said, nodding toward his home. If you ever get a letter on your door, bring it to me first. They laughed, unsure if it was a joke. He handed them a single sheet of paper. Your rights in Pine Hill, with a map, contact info, and the new rules printed clearly. I'm Malik, he added. The woman's eyes widened. Wait, Malik? He chuckled. Depends on what you've heard. She smiled. Only good things. Later that week, Malik returned home from work to find something taped to his front door. A child's drawing. Crayon and construction paper. Stick figure man with dark skin, standing tall with a briefcase. Above him, in crooked letters, HOA Hero. He stared at it for a long time, then opened his front door and placed it gently on the kitchen counter. 2 days later, at the monthly HOA meeting, Malik passed the gavel. He wasn't stepping down, but he was rotating leadership just like the new bylaw required. Power that isn't shared becomes poison, he told the room. We don't need heroes. We need neighbors. Applause followed, not out of obligation, out of respect. After the meeting, Linda walked with him to his driveway. Quiet out here tonight, she said. He nodded. That's how I like it. They stood in silence, watching porch lights blink. Across the neighborhood, peaceful, ordinary, she smiled. You changed everything, he shook his head. No, I just reminded them who it belongs to. She looked at his porch step, the one from months ago. Funny, she said. All this started with you fixing that thing, he grinned. Sometimes you rebuild more than what's broken. The next morning, Malik opened his front door to grab the paper, but something else was there. A small, engraved plaque nailed to the wood beside his step. This porch was rebuilt with patience, truth, and quiet strength. May every home in Pine. He'll remember what that looks like. No signature dot, just the truth dot, and across the street. The new couple watched from their window. They saw Malik stand there, dot still dot proud dot, and finally seen.